In this video, we're going to go through some scary statistics about the massive layoffs within the finance industry. Over 200,000 finance layoffs, some impact of AI here, and many people who are giving up, they're crashing out, they're not sure how to deal with it, right? Now, we're going to go through some clips here from different individuals. We're going to go through these headlines from the Forbes magazine. 200,000 Wall Street jobs are going to be slashed by AI, if that's what they're predicting. Now, I'm someone who can help you build power, pay, and freedom. If you're someone who's being impacted by a layoff, I will help you with your job search. If you're currently at a company trying to struggle and move forward, I can help you organize, deal with office politics, different type of difficult personalities, co-workers, managers, how to deal with a lot of that, how to really stay in your industry and thrive with AI growing, offshoring growing, dealing with a lot of the ruthless cost cutting that's going. One-to-one coaching gives you a proven strategy to pivot, reskill, and land interviews fast, and help boost my clients' income by up to 30%, right? When they're applying, when they're working with me, using my strategies that have worked for me successfully over 10 years in the industry, working at Goldman, Morgan Stanley, and many other companies. Now, as we move into 2026, these news and these headlines are just going to get worse, right? So if you want to get started, you want to push forward with your career, let me know, schedule a call with me, link in description. Let's listen to some clips here.
I think that quitting my tech job this year was a mistake. I kind of regret it because I don't think that I could have worked after what happened with my father. And right now, I have had so much time to and to really my emotions, and also just I have not had a break from working in so many years. And I know people well, you're not supposed to have a break, all about work. I don't feel that way. I feel like I worked so hard for so many years, and I never really took vacations, and I just never had a break. And so that gave me the break. But I do think it was probably a mistake in that the job market right now is so terrible, and it's hard for people to find a job, and people are just to get interviews. Quit back in May, and that was a month after my dad died, a month and a half maybe. And I just I'm applying to jobs the past weeks just to see what's out there, and just to kind of interview process started, because I just wanted to, well, first I thought I was going to be a content creator, and then I realized just wasn't realistic for me. I was having a complete crash out over my dad dying, and I just I don't know. But submitting my application to and I have a pretty good resume. I've been working in IT for years, and I'm finishing my master's degree in IT, and I'm a cloud engineer. So I have quite a skills, and I cannot land an interview. Interviews that I have had are someone with 10 years of experience in a specific thing. And that is extremely hard to find because tech is so broad. There's so many things that you could do with it, and the requirements are ridiculous. So I'm thinking that honestly, I known this, I probably would have a leave of absence instead, and then this job a little bit longer until I could find another job. I was really unhappy at this job though, guys. The workload was just insane, and I just couldn't really relax ever, especially with my dad dying and everything that happened. I didn't even have time off. I am starting to panic just a little bit. I can afford not to work for a little bit longer, but I truly do need to get back in the workforce and start working again. And it's looking like I'm not going to really be able to take another tech job really quickly. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm into other things and stuff. What are you guys doing? I just want to know, is everybody's job?
Now, this is the situation that many people are in, right? They end up doing job hugging. Job hugging is where they stick with a job they don't like, right? And what she ended up doing is losing her patience with that, right? The problem with some of these jobs, and just to show you how inhumane they are, even if it's a high-paying tech job, is that what you end up dealing with is a situation where you can't live your life at a human pace. She mentioned her family member had passed away, and she hadn't fully recovered from that. Now, sometimes if you're working for major companies, they might give you some additional time to have therapy, to spend some time, of course, with the family events around someone passing and things like that. But it does make things quite difficult. And she mentions working hard for several years, and so many people work hard for several years thinking it's going to pay off, and sometimes it doesn't, right? And then they don't take vacations, they sacrifice all their free time for their job, and the work doesn't ultimately care about your personal life or make up for it or give you the fulfillment or even sometimes the financial goals you're aiming for, right? I think a lot of people who are the masses, who are living their life almost like a slave class, a slave underclass, out of money for vacations, not having time to buy a house, have a family, relationships, or even sometimes make time for long-term friends and meeting with them because they're so stressed about their finances. And in those situations, it can make life a bit difficult. I think what ends up happening is that a lot of the they try to look for an exit plan. And in her case, she mentioned looking for an exit plan like content creator, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that comes with its own challenges, right? Like you want to be someone who's like, okay, I'll be a TikTok streamer or a live streamer, whatever it would be. Obviously, you need to spend many years building that fan base up, and then how you're going to maintain that, how you're going to make that a sustainable source of income. That is a real lot of work, right? People think it's just easy, but it's not. And I know, because I have my YouTube channel, it's not this easy thing. You do deal with burnout, you do deal with moments of frustration, things do go wrong, and things do take a lot of time. So that's what's important to think. And then she mentioned doing her masters and something like that, or considering a masters. Again, I point out all my videos, think about things carefully before you do some form of education that costs a lot of money. Because many people, they do this, they do a master's, PhD, and it doesn't make them more money. It was just something they were interested in and they thought it would help their career, and it doesn't. Don't do an MBA if it's not going to boost your income dramatically, right? And the other thing is, what is the fate of the wage debt slave? Which means people who just work paycheck to paycheck, month to month. They don't have any long-term plan. You really got to think these things through, right? Now, I think if you hate a job, you should definitely do quiet quitting, whereby you do less and less work over time and they give you a layoff or fire you after a year or two because they think you're not working hard enough. I would say don't just leave on the spot. Like she says, she regrets quitting her job. I recommend you probably shouldn't quit your job. You should quiet quit your job in this type of economy where they just pay you for months on end. Like I say, your performance is too low, we're going to have to fire you or give you a layoff, things like that. And then try to really consider, if you're considering leaving a company right now, what is the mental health policy that they have? Because if they have a strong mental health policy or sick leave policy, you might be able to get paid for 6 months doing no work by pretending to have a mental health issue, right? So think about that, right? You have lots of options. You got to plan ahead.
Let me tell y'all this. If you have a secure corporate job, I don't want to hear complaining. You should be very happy and relieved that you have that job. I graduated in 2023, and I've been applying for corporate jobs in communications, social media, like in the fashion, clothing industry, everywhere. And I can't even get an entry-level job. They require several years of corporate prior experience, which is so unfair because an entry level is for someone who just got out of college. That's just crazy to me, but that's besides the point. I own my own business to get by, but I'm still to this day trying to get an entry-level corporate job. So if you have a corporate job already, I don't want to hear shit. You're fortunate. You should be very relieved that you don't have to keep applying to jobs.
That's an unfortunate place to pause the video, but like she's making a good point, which goes back to the whole concept of job hugging, where many people are just sticking with the job they have because they realize how bad the job market is. In her case, she studied, she wanted to work in communications in the fashion industry, can't find jobs like that. She owns her own business. I'd be curious to know what that own business was, how she's making money on the side. Many people are in desperation to leave their job, right? And it's interesting how things vary from different perspectives. Like her perspective, she's trying to get one step into the career, and many people are trying to exit it. And this what ends up happening is many people who graduated in recent years, they're locked out the job market because the job market isn't hiring. So you might have graduated, let's just say, with a computer science degree in 2022, 2023. The job market's so slow, you can't get a role in that particular industry, and it really annoys you. And then what ends up happening is it kind of, a lot of people's future are delayed it by several years until maybe the job market picks up. But it looks like it's doing that at a very slow rate, right? So she didn't mention what degree she did. She wanted to, I think she said something about studying communications and things like that. And I think really be careful what degree you're picking. You're going to be studying and paying a lot of money for a college or university degree. Make sure it actually yields an income and it's not just a low paying job that you're going to find fun, right? Now here's another woman who's been laid off from Microsoft.
Off a few weeks ago from Microsoft, and to be honest, I don't necessarily feel stressed about finding a job. Doesn't mean I'm not putting all my energy into it. I'm getting a ton of rejections. I've applied to definitely over 100 jobs now in the last few weeks. You need to continuously bounce back. The only substantial thing I have right now is the Accenture path right now. I am so privileged to have been laid off from Microsoft because I basically go 3 months without working, but I get paid the same. I feel like I don't really have room to complain because I was able to work at Microsoft right out of college for 3 years. And I know like all this stuff came from my hard work ethic, and like you can tell my like job series, like a girl never took a day off. As long as you continue working hard and you put yourself out there, there's going to be opportunity for you. So you just got to keep going.
So, she's making some good points here. She's dealing with a Microsoft layoff. She's kind of grateful for working at a big company. And again, if you have any opportunity to work for a big company, even if it's not the ideal role and you might be like, damn it, it might not be what I want to do, it might stress you out. If you have a big name on your resume, it's kind of going to help you for the rest of your career, particularly if you have a couple of big names, right? This will give you a lot of leverage to find your next opportunity. And hiring managers will see that name stand out. I wouldn't be surprised if some mid-sized tech firms, when they're hiring and they're doing automated filtering for who to interview, that they have certain keywords they might look out for. Like, just say a mid-sized tech firm will have a filtering mechanism. So if anyone worked at one of the big tech firms, Facebook, Netflix, Google, Apple, other ones, right? They would basically filter out in Microsoft and get ready to interview them, right? Whichever company it would be. So it's good to have that on your resume. It'll help you stand out. And a recruiter, if they want to put your resume in front of a hiring manager, they're more likely to do it if you have a Microsoft or a Google on your resume compared to the smaller firms. Now, the whole point about, she mentioned you just got to keep going. And that's the reality of any job search for anyone, right? You have to deal with a lot of rejections, detachment, going through a long interview process only to get rejected or ghosted. And then you might have found another job in the meantime. I've went through so many long job interview processes for private equity, hedge funds, big four companies like Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, big banks, JP Morgan, Citigroup, companies I've worked for. They really stretch out the interview process. They become so annoying after a point where you're like, okay, how do I have to do this for? And that's why you got to be detached from it. It's just like you see it as like a task you've got to get your way through. Now, the whole thing is, she mentions applying for a lot of jobs, some people doing 100 applications. It's better to do targeted job applications and look for specific companies that are going to be a good fit for you, so you can aim high but still be a bit more realistic rather than just aim for everything. And the way to bounce back is being emotionally detached. And I know that can be hard when you're dealing with job rejections, right? And the whole thing about working smart versus working hard, right? And the thing is, I don't know her situation, but she mentions working hard at a previous job at Microsoft. But I wonder if there were some signs she was missing in terms of that perhaps a layoff was coming up, right? So she could find or switch her career ahead of that. And she mentioned something quite interesting. She said the only path she has right now is the Microsoft Ascension path. And I think she could be referring to something generic or something specific, whereby for Microsoft specifically, they have some kind of path that helps you with giving you severance, like a layoff payment. Then you can, of course, use Microsoft on your resume to help with your job applications. And then they have certain parts in like career, about pivoting your career, going to startups, going to other big companies, shifting to more specialist roles like AI. So this is the thing. If you are dealing with a layoff from maybe a bigger company, really look into what free services they might offer.
You allow it.
This is a PSA for all you hiring companies out there. If you require that person comes to the office 2 out of 5 days or 3 out of 5 days a week, that is not a remote position, that is hybrid. Secondly, if you require that the person lives in the surrounding area, that is not a remote job. A remote job does not mean, oh, in order for us to consider your you have to live within 30 to 50 miles. That is not remote.
It's a very brief little point, right? You could have this type of attitude when it came to a few years ago when companies were desperate to hire, but now they're not. Now they're like, we want you in the office 5 days a week for many big companies like an Amazon or a Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs, or they want you hybrid maybe for the mid-level companies because the employees have a bit more leverage, right? But they do want you near the office. They do want you in the office. You can't be so demanding on remote jobs these days compared to previous years. And of course, I agree with what he's saying, that the way companies should work is give you that flexibility and give you that leverage. But now the companies have got too much power and they're not going to relinquish it now. They understand that employees have too much power. They did have too much power, and it exposed the whole system in so many ways. The whole system's a fake, rigged lie. Everyone could do their job remotely. 90% of office jobs can be done remotely. But the fact that they've dragged everyone back to the office and they've got away with it. And the thing is, I've seen all these protests over the last few weeks or months or years, and it's like, shouldn't the most obvious case of labor protests be, okay, we're all going to push for for remote work where possible. And people didn't do that. People were so lazy, they were caught up with divisions between race and gender and politics and all those things. The biggest life change that you could have pushed for if you were going to go out in the street and protest life would be that remote work for all, right? If you work from home, if we had millions of people protesting, we could have had a massive push for that, and corporations would have struggled to deal with that. But people didn't unite over that. They were too busy infighting over some other BS that doesn't even matter now. People don't even remember what they're protesting about a couple of years ago.
All right, so I feel like a lot of engineers, when they first start engineering school, are kind of false narrative that, you college, and because you have an engineering degree, unlike everybody else, you're going to get a job immediately because, you have one of the hardest degrees known to man, like, bro. The reality is this, it is not the case, right? You hear all the time about business majors and finance majors and people like that who are struggling to find jobs. Well, it's the same thing for engineers. And honestly, the only way to prevent this is to get experience right now as quick as you can, because the clock is ticking, and if you don't do something right now about it, you might just be screwed. Well, I mean, yeah, because you're smart, you're an engineer, but seriously, this will help you out. Before you start looking for internships, find research opportunities at your school, because it's really hard out there to go and get even an internship at this point. But if you can go and ask a professor, hey, do you have any research opportunities for me? You can start to work with them, get a couple months under your belt, and start applying for internships early on, and use that experience to leverage your way into that internship. And if you're a freshman right now, honestly, start looking for internships like today, because you might not get one for a year or two. That's just the reality. But if you start looking now, you're going to get one before you graduate, which will make it way easier to go and get a job. So good luck out there. Go get those internships.
I agree with him, right? I went to a top economics university in London called London School of Economics. That's kind of well known globally too. And I realized after 1 year there, I was like, I mean, what's this university really going to do for me? Yeah, it might stand out on my resume compared to an average university, right? But experience matters so much more. I did two summer internships, and they were very difficult to get. I get internships through hundreds of applications, because I realized how much that experience mattered and how pointless the degree was, right? You understand, if you do an economics degree, I did economics and some economic history in my degree, develop some technical skills like numerical skills and writing skills at the same time, which I liked, to do a balance of both. But the point is, I realized there's only so far this degree could take me, right? I need that experience. And many other people I know who got better grades than me at university, they struggled to get some of those top jobs. They ended up working like some office jobs till they got the front office jobs they were looking for. And the whole thing is you've got to get that experience. And I agree with him, right? So all that time I spent applying for all those internships, like a decade ago, they massively help now. I wouldn't be maybe in the position I'm in working at some of those companies I worked at if I didn't push myself then. Many people were just partying, hanging out with friends, doing 1 or 2 internship applications, thinking it's going to work out. But I remember when I was at London School of Economics, of course, there's thousands of students across London, across the country, even globally applying for some of these internships. So the competition is intense, and I never got fooled anytime I was around large groups of people. Like, they're not passive aggressively competing with everyone. Like, you're at work, people are competing to become the next manager or to get promoted. You're at university, people are competing to get top grades, to get top internships, top job roles. You're surrounded by competitors, and that's something you need to take into account when you are in these environments, right? So when I was at university, to be honest, when it came to my second year of university, I did let my grades slip. I might cover that in another video. So I had to do some extra work at university after I kind of let grade slip. The whole point is I got that internship, and that's going to a good economics university by getting good grades before that at college. Then I got a summer internship at a data analytics company, and part of that reason I got that is because on my resume I had got some free work experience I did at small treasuries, local government offices, very small roles, small accounting, one-person accounting firms. So that helped me get that data analytics internship over the summer. The following summer I got a internship at the European Investment Bank. Then I finished university after a year. Then I had a job offer from that European Investment Bank to work there for 2 to 3 years. Then I worked at an American investment bank for 2 to 3 years, and another one, and then a few different other finance firms after that. The whole point is one leads to the next. And if you delay things like, you're just having fun at uni, you just want to get good grades, you're just happy with your current job, even if you're in the job market, you finish studying, if you're moving slow, things are going to move even slower. It's like you've got to be constantly, not necessarily accelerating by working at a faster pace, but really having strategic maneuvers. Don't get caught up where you're at, because you'll just fall behind. So many people you probably see stuck in dead-end jobs, miserable. It's because they just got comfortable, they got lazy and things like that. And this is what I mean. You've got to prepare early and differentiate yourself from others. Very important to plan ahead, right? So you don't fall behind later in your career. Because, like I say, there's many people who delayed their progress because they just focused on getting top grades earlier on. And then they end up spending like 2 years just to get some basic finance job before they can move into a higher paying role. Now, let's go to this article finally, right? 200,000 Wall Street jobs may be slashed by AI. Here it says major Wall Street banks are expected to slash 200,000 jobs over the next 3 to 5 years due to AI adoption, as pointed out by Bloomberg. The job cuts are going to expand to the back office, the middle office and operational departments, and other repetitive tasks. Now, this is interesting, right? Because that's what you'd expect AI to impact. But some of those jobs have already been outsourced to India, to other low cost of living locations, low labor cost locations. So it's interesting how many jobs will be lost in those other locations like India before it impacts so many people in the West. Because so many people in the West are already losing those back office and middle office jobs to India, but then it's going to go from India to AI. So it's interesting to see how things will transition over time. Positions involving data analysts, financial trend assessment, risk evaluation, things like that are going to be replaced by AI. Entry-level positions could also face uncertain futures as financial firms reduce new hires by up to 2/3 as AI can do some junior analyst type of roles. However, nearly a quarter of banks that have been surveyed, such as Citigroup, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, anticipate that more sizable job losses from 5 to 10% of their total staff will be incurred through a lot of these AI job cuts. And they say as they move towards AI, they're going to increase their profitability by 12 to 17%. Now, and it also says 80% of respondents say that generative AI will improve productivity by at least 5% in the same time frame. Now, some of these numbers, I think they're exaggerating, right? You've got to understand there is a financial incentive here. Banks saying we're going to incorporate AI and increase our profits by 17%. I mean, some of it are going to be exaggerated completely. Then it says the integration of AI in the financial sector has a double-edged sword because it's going to realize with some people losing their jobs and other new opportunities are going to come in. AI could create new type of job roles and reducing existing ones. It might not eliminate all jobs, but reshape them with workers adapting to new skills using AI and human judgment and creativity because that's irreplaceable, right? Because there's certain things AI can't do, like creative thinking, to the same extent that humans can. There's going to be greater emphasis on certain skills. So this is what to look out for in terms of reskilling: computer science, statistics, data analysts. This is what they're going to be looking for in terms of new jobs. AI oversight, making sure that AI is operating with the right risk management frameworks, ethical considerations, developing AI strategies for financial institutions. And then it talks about here engaging in ongoing education and skill development if you're a worker in a rapidly changing job market. So those are the type of things to look out for. How's it going to impact your industry? How can you change accordingly to that so you can survive? Now, if you are dealing with these type of scenarios, very difficult job market right now, AI impacting job stability, and if you look at the quote on my screen right now, UBS firing, UPS hiring, kind of trend we see right now in terms of some of the big banks or big finance firms or big companies in general firing people, and people are left with low paying service jobs, gig work, food delivery services, things like that. But if you want to keep your high paying corporate job, remain with more job stability, deal with the AI, the outsourcing, the offshoring, the ruthless cost cutting, ruthless office politics, my one-to-one coaching gives you proven strategies that work for me to pivot, reskill, and land interviews fast. Now, I've done that successfully for myself across the finance industry, working at Goldman's, Morgan Stanley, other top firms, and I've successfully interviewed actually at hedge funds, private equity firms, the big four accountancy and consulting firms. And I've also helped many of my clients in other industries like tech, engineering, game development, all of niche type of jobs. If you're interested, link in description to speak with me directly. Let me know in the comments how you feel about some of these job cuts, and I'll see you in the next video.